Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake, Chats 2017. Have I got a good one for you? It's a double header today. It's called The Petty Tyrant. It is actually an echo from Carlos Castaneda, whose mentor or guru in his work, Don Juan, gives him quite the lesson as it relates to the petty tyrant. To have a petty tyrant in your life is about as big a spiritual gift as you can get, because that is the one who is going to be the game changer for you if you let him or her really get under your skin. Yep. And petty tyrants, they do outrageous, outlandish, inappropriate, immature things. And they break things and they do all kinds of dumbass shit to trigger you. And they're yours. That petty tyrant's yours. They're your triggers. So, why is that a benefit? How could that possibly be a gift? Well, the truth is that in a bullying situation, there's a paradox. Because it would appear on first blush that it's the bully who has power. That's not true. Nope. It's the bullied who has the power. A bully wants to take away your control. But that is the illusion. Sure, they can be controlling. Do they really have your control? A petty tyrant. Well, we have a true fascistic, totalitarian bully, tyrant in the White House. And there were pictures, so many, are they called GIFs or GIFs, of the First Lady pulling faces for all of America to see. Evidently, all of the coaches that were around didn't get to her about keeping that in check. Or my guess is that that's her currency. It's become so second nature to her. She gets pity. She probably already has. Always has. I mean. So, that'd be like asking her not to wear her nose the way it was put on her face. So, there's an article, Free Melania, and there's a hashtag of that. Boy, did that trigger me. Oh, yeah. Oh, so we're going to think that the woman in this situation is the helpless damsel who has no say. Yeah, right. It doesn't matter if it's the female who's the bully or the male who's the bully. But if it's a couple and one of them is a bully, the other one is also sick. The other one is an enabler. Because that kind of thinking, the poor judgment, the crazy thinking, the incontinence of behavior and speech, that whole thing is an intoxicant. And I mean, I've seen it up close and personal. It is unthinkable what one person who says they love you is actually capable of. It's sort of breathtaking sometimes to realize that's just the. I think that's really what leads a lot of people to the abyss. I have given you my heart, my soul, my body. And this is how you speak to me. This is the level of your concern. Look how blind you are. Look how deaf you are. And yet, you are anything but mute. So, I don't want anyone telling me that the First Lady is a prisoner, has Stockholm Syndrome, and yet we're expecting good things from this president? What? And at this point, you know what? For all the ones who wrote on my comment section and just expressed themselves, thank you. Thank you. Go for it. I can have my thoughts about your expressions, just as it's clear you have thoughts about my expression. But isn't it wonderful we're getting it out in the open? So I was petitioned by mainly women to take a seat and, have some compassion and be nice and expect good things. And from the dudes it was, take it. Wow. It's crazy. I'm actually being asked by fellow American citizens to be enthusiastic for a totalitarian fascist they consider their president. And if I'm not on board, somehow I'm the bad guy. Wow. Wow. I didn't ever speak to anyone the way I've been spoken to about this when Bernie was around. Meaning that it's a stray thought. This whole thing is just really beyond the pale. But I think it's a social thing. I think that we're looking at the social fabric. We're looking at the male-female ratio of power. Who of the dyad is going to be allowed to have an opinion that is acceptable and who isn't? Wow. So good. And it seems like people have been more than willing to take on this petty tyrant energy and work with it. And that's kind of exciting to me. Because really it's true, once you've got a pebble in your shoe, something's going to happen. There is an adjustment that's going to have to be made. And I would suggest we've been walking with a pebble in our shoe for quite a while now. And we're just getting a first peek as that shoe comes off. And what it is we've got going here. Realizing that it's more extensive than the callus. But considering we just sat down from a very long walk and have lots of stamina, with the right kind of care, we'll probably be better for this. Certainly no less functional. But forever now aware of the dangers of a little pebble that we don't attend to right away in the body politic. I want to tell you of a kind of a lightning bolt I got this afternoon. Out of the blue. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. But it dawned on me. Now, this guy, this Trump guy, and the Republicans is so great. So the Republican Party went around saying, yeah, this America thing, it's broken. It's so broken. And the best thing that we can do is to weaken it to the point where we can drown it in a bathtub. And then we'll be able to, I don't know, have the apocalypse or something. I'm not really sure what the end game was, but I do know that there was a hatred for American politics and American government, and people ran on this and they got voted in. And so then they broke it further and then declared it broken. And then they brought in somebody who's a pirate, and I think that they've all been pirates. But this one is an unabashed pirate, a professional pirate, and a pretty proud pirate. And I remember them talking a lot about Romney, not them, just remember when Romney was being considered. And the concern I had that, this is a guy who buys companies that have actually people who go to work in them. And regardless of that, he buys companies, strangles them, and then sells off the parts. And the thing is that when there's this kind of organization and plan that we've seen from the Trump administration in the last week, well, that tells me that there's been some thinking and there's an agenda. What could possibly be the agenda? What would make these people do this? Break things apart like this? Decimate what a lot of Americans thought was not touchable, sacrosanct. Like, I don't know, free speech? Well, I think what's going on is that these people are truly convinced that what is in place is dangerous. They really do believe at the lower levels there are actors who really believe this, that the government is evil, that the way we've been doing business is wrong. Notice I said the phrase, doing business. Looking at America as if it is a business. What's the first thing that new management does when they come in, when they bought a company? Anybody else been there? They fire people. They clear the decks and fire people so they can install their own form of reality. This isn't a business. This is our home. But, wow, yeah, the captain of industry can't at the end of the day really give a shit whether your kids go hungry or not. If you weren't performing, they had every right. And once I realized that, then things began to make sense for me. I think that because this is a grotesque exaggeration of the patriarchy and the authoritarian consciousness that we have functioned under as a people, and with the contrast the way they are, what we're dealing with is really the male-female paradigm. And deciding how we're going to be treated and how we're going to treat each other. Is Melania free? Melania. Yeah, sweet Melania. Well, you know, I really did. I want to know. In, let's say 1939. No, let's say 1943. Did the German public, do you think they would feel sorry for Eva Braun? Or was it only in retrospect that they felt pity? And us, with our hardened hearts, having lost so many people in that conflict, how many Americans felt pity for Eva Braun? They felt something. But was it pity? Was it suspicion? Or was she just seen as... Well, I'm convinced she was a prop. But, I wonder. But let it be said. My fellow citizens, the last 2 weeks, have actually gone out of their way to tell me that I need to be okay with this fascism. And there's something that's not right with me if I'm not on board. So I think it's high time to pick some camps, don't you? Go ahead and tell me how okay I'm supposed to be with all this. You go ahead and do that. I'm driving home smiling, thinking to myself, you know, It becomes so simple. I've been thinking about this for a few days. You go ahead. Post all you want. Tell me your thoughts about how great this all is. You're going to live to regret it. You're on the wrong side of history, dude. Your ignorance is showing. Your inability to reason critically is showing. Your emotionalism is showing. Your unfinished business is showing. And it wasn't over for several years in Germany. And we all have our thoughts about good old Adolf and his girl. There are those who can see what's going on and are very aware that one's conduct now really does matter in a much, much bigger way than apparently some people have figured out. These are historic times, and how you play this thing says everything about you. And here I am, not feeling pity for the First Lady, and not feeling enthusiastic about the President. Oh, hell yeah. You can expect more. This is a psychodrama deluxe. It is massive. It's complex. But at its heart, it's quite simple. And what these times are here to teach us, I've been discussing, so I'm not going to review all that. These are historic times. And there is more than one option. More than one explanation. More than one motive, even. Very complex. But at its base, it's us looking right into the eyes of our own shadow. Which might actually have the face of your abuser, your accuser, your bully. And in quieter moments, you see. As you study, those eyes are too familiar to be his, to be hers. Look closer. Take in the face. You're looking at yourself. At what you've survived, at what you've fantasized, of what you haven't grieved and probably should get around to? Shadow work. When are the shadows most convincing? When is one of those shadow plays the most fun? When you have a really super bright light, when you have lots of contrast, where it's not gray, it is black and white. So, this is pretty. I'm so pleased. This is some of the best work I've ever done the last couple of weeks. I'm so blessed. We all are. These are really, really wonderful times to be alive. And I'm glad I'm commentator and not feeler right now. I'm really, really glad I'm in this role and not the other one. So I feel for you. Enjoy that. I'm here. Namaste.